Welcome to World Prism. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Huawei's resilience story begins with a U.S. campaign to cripple the Chinese tech giant. In 2018, Washington labeled Huawei a national security threat, fearing its equipment could enable Chinese espionage. The U.S. placed Huawei on the Entity List in 2019, cutting it off from American technology and software, including Google's Android and advanced chip designs. The sanctions expanded, targeting not just U.S. firms, but any company using American tech, including Taiwan's TSMC, Huawei's key chip supplier. The U.S. banned Huawei from its networks and pressured allies to do the same, aiming to isolate the company globally. Huawei's smartphone sales plummeted, and its 5G ambitions in the West stalled. For a moment, it looked like the strategy was working. Huawei was cornered, facing an existential crisis, but the US underestimated Huawei's preparation and determination. Instead of collapsing, Huawei began fighting back, determined to build a new path independent of American technology. The campaign against Huawei set the stage for a much larger confrontation between the world's two tech superpowers. What followed was a story of adaptation, innovation, and a company refusing to be broken. The world was about to witness a remarkable comeback. The 2019 sanctions shocked the world, but Huawei had seen the storm coming. As early as 2012, Huawei began quietly developing its own technologies, stockpiling components, and preparing for supply chain disruptions. The company invested billions in R&D, funneling around 20% of annual revenue into innovation, even as pressure mounted. Huawei's engineers were tasked with a monumental challenge: build a world-class tech ecosystem without American parts. The Chinese government stepped in, providing billions to boost domestic chip manufacturing and encouraging state-owned enterprises to prioritize Huawei. By focusing on the vast Chinese market, Huawei stabilized its finances and shifted over 70% of its revenue to domestic sales by 2024. Instead of breaking, Huawei used the crisis as a catalyst for transformation. Early planning, massive R&D, and state support became a powerful shield. The American siege was meant to destroy Huawei, but it only galvanized the company. Huawei's mission became clear: achieve technological self-reliance. Huawei's survival hinged on replacing two critical American technologies: Google's Android and advanced chips. In August 2019, Huawei launched Harmony OS, first for smart devices, then rapidly expanding it into a seamless ecosystem for phones, tablets, and more. The breakthrough came in 2024, with Harmony OS Next, built from scratch, free of Android code, and connecting nearly 1 billion devices in China by 2025. On the hardware front, US sanctions blocked access to top chip makers, forcing Huawei to use older chips, temporarily. Behind the scenes, Huawei and Chinese partners raced to build advanced chip production in China. In August 2023, Huawei shocked the world with the Mate 60 Pro, powered by a new 7nm Kirin chip made in China. The device proved US sanctions had failed to halt China's tech progress. In fact, they accelerated it. Huawei had replicated advanced chip technology many thought was out of reach. The comeback was a symbol of defiance and innovation. Harmony OS and the new Kirin chips became the foundation of Huawei's independence. The company was no longer just surviving, it was setting new standards. The world took notice. A new tech ecosystem was rising. Huawei's transformation was complete. Harmony OS and the new Kirin chip fueled Huawei's spectacular comeback in China. The Mate 60 Pro's 2023 launch became a national event, symbolizing China's resilience. By early 2024, Huawei shipped 11.7 million smartphones, surpassing Apple in China. The Harmony OS ecosystem and powerful Kirin chips drew consumers back in droves. Huawei reclaimed its spot among China's top smartphone brands and expanded its lead in global telecom equipment, especially in developing nations. By 2024, Huawei's telecom market share grew, and billions worldwide used its 5G technology. The US campaign aimed to cripple Huawei, but instead, it turned the company into a national champion. Huawei's domestic success became the launchpad for renewed global ambitions. The US campaign against Huawei had unintended consequences for American companies. US tech firms lost over $33 billion in sales to Huawei between 2021 and 2024. Giants like Qualcomm, Intel, and Broadcom lost a major customer and watched as Huawei developed its own solutions, creating a new competitor. The export bans also allowed international rivals to fill the gap. Japanese firm Advantest, for example, gained market share at the expense of US companies. The sanctions, meant to hobble Huawei, ended up boosting foreign competitors and accelerating China's tech independence. American firms lost revenue and market share, while Huawei was pushed to innovate faster. The policy designed to protect US tech leadership may have weakened it instead. The global tech landscape was shifting, and not in America's favor. The cost of the campaign was steep, and the long-term impact is still unfolding. In trying to contain Huawei, the US may have fueled its rise. Huawei's story is part of a larger Chinese strategy: techno-nationalism and digital sovereignty. Since 2013, China has pushed to replace foreign technology, ordering government agencies to phase out foreign hardware and software by 2027. The US sanctions against Huawei turned this policy into a national mission. China invested tens of billions in its chip industry and developed its own AI chips, like Huawei's Ascend series, as US export controls tighten. The movement extends beyond China. Other nations, wary of US or Chinese dominance, are pursuing their own digital sovereignty. The US-Huawei conflict became a global wake-up call. Countries in the EU and Japan are now building local industries and regulations to protect their tech independence. The world is moving toward fragmented, self-sufficient digital spheres. Huawei's struggle became a blueprint for national resilience. The quest for technological sovereignty is now a global race. Huawei's battle with the US has reshaped the global tech landscape, accelerating a split into two competing spheres, one led by the US, the other by China. By 2025, Huawei claimed an ecosystem fully independent of American technology, having replaced thousands of components and redesigned its products. The world now faces a new tech Cold War: competing standards, incompatible ecosystems, and digital walls. Apps and devices may no longer work across borders, complicating trade and innovation. Huawei is not just a survivor, it's an architect of this new reality. Its success has emboldened China to export its technology, especially to the global south. The US sanctions, meant to neutralize a threat, triggered a nationalist backlash and accelerated the rise of a formidable competitor. The global tech system is now more fragmented and multipolar. Huawei was the flashpoint that ignited the flames of technological decoupling. The digital world ahead will be more divided, more competitive, and far less certain. The legacy of this conflict is only beginning to unfold.